Hello, everyone. Big relief we're not on stools. That's just a very human observation if you're chairing these events. Well, welcome to a discussion about humans and machines and the world of work. Curiosity is the leitmotif of the story coming out of South by Southwest so far. And I certainly am endlessly curious about the integration of and impact of technology on humans. And we've got three really grown-up, brilliant people to pick their brains. And I'm going to say they were chatting away beforehand and bonding. Dr. Thomas Ogilvie has a workforce of 600,000. And by the way, even though we're in very bougie knowledge Shoreditch, the majority of workers represented on this stage are blue-collar workers. And so when we talk about technology and its impact, we're really needing to think about every aspect of work, not just knowledge workers. And Vedant Sampath is, in a way, our obvious tech guru on stage and the newest company to be represented here, Nexthink, is doing some pretty remarkable things on employee engagement and the employee experience. And Iain Franklin, who heads the consulting business of JLL, which is very much the bricks and mortar side of where we work and, in fact, the buildings that house the technology that powers the AI, is also going to talk to us, and we're going to pick their brains on two things in particular. One is technology in the workplace, like how's it going? And the other is the worker in the workplace and the place of work. So before I kick off, I will just say, think of me in technology terms as a prompt language, and an augmenter. How about that? See what I did there? Brought in technology.
Brought in the AI.
Exactly. Vedant, may I start with you? Because you're the Chief Technology Officer of a business that specializes in improving the human experience using technology. Can you just tell us a little bit about us and what you're sensing is going on?
Great. Thanks, Julia, and thanks, everyone. It's great to be here. So a little bit about Nexthink. I'm assuming that a lot of people don't know about us. But basically, we are a Swiss-based company. We're a unicorn. Not too many unicorns out there, and we need a lot more in Europe. So our focus has been around about 10 years ago. We started looking at it. Most people talked about customer experience at that time. There wasn't much you heard about employee experience. And the reality that Nexthink and a lot of people came to that conclusion as well, is that you can't have great customer experience if your employee experience, to use a technical term, sucks. So that's essentially what got us started. We pivoted into that space, into what's called digital employee experience. We created that category, we evangelized that, and now we're deployed in about 20 million employees across 1,300 enterprises worldwide. So very large companies that are focused on that digital employee experience, because when you think of it, that's where knowledge work gets done today. So being able to have IT understand what's going on and be proactive rather than you calling up and saying, hey, restart your computer, clear your cache. How many of you have heard that happen? So being able to actually solve your problem is what this technology is all about. And IT typically has been about, hey, all my systems are green, so the employee must be doing great. And we change that perspective. We bring it from the employee inwards to say, all your stuff is green, their computer is running slowly, their VPN is not working. So that's essentially what we do.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas Ogilvie, you look after a large number of people and you combine listening to your humans, don't you, in order to better deploy your technology? I mean, as a logistics business, probably on the stage, everybody has used or knows DHL. And so obviously we know that AI is being used in the human supply chain. But how do you listen and hear and respond to employees' concerns in general and about the tech?
Yeah, very good question, and something that would probably take the 24 minutes and 7 seconds to reply to it. Very quickly on this one, I mean, you know red and yellow, probably you associate us with truck drivers, with delivery people, but if you look behind the curtain, that's a company with more than 1,000 different jobs. We have pilots, we have solution designers, we have investor relations specialists, customer service agents, so this is not a one-size-fits-all answer you can give to it. And I think what you need to do, no matter if you're big or small, you need to break it down to the level where it becomes relevant. You need to break it down where you can have a meaningful conversation about how is your area of the job changing when you work in a warehouse or when you work in a customer service building. And this is actually what we try to do, not to have one big top-down program in place, more to provide a framework to understand how a workforce is evolving, how local labor markets are evolving, how expectations from our people are evolving, and of course how skills are evolving. And based on that, you can then have with your managers, with your local SMTs, have very good conversation to make tangible action plans. And it's not so much about me or my central team actually putting this into place, but relying on the creativity and the knowledge of the organization.
But you must have had a couple of uncomfortable board meetings where people have said, hang on a minute, I thought we were setting a 5-year plan globally that applies to everybody, everywhere, all at once, to coin the phrase of that movie, and you've gone, no. I mean, the board's changing. How have you handled that at a human level?
So, I mean, the 5 years plans are somehow gone with the Soviet times. And still, of course, we have a direction that we want to somehow capture and conquer, but ultimately it's this mixture of exploratory movement, and we are still in a space where there is no dominant design. There's a lot of things moving on, and I think we need all to benefit from this phase of fermentation. But wherever you have already a use case that can be productized and that can be implemented in a way that you see the impact and also the financial benefit of it, then you need to go this way. So it's not either or, it's in a way burning the candle on both ends. On the one hand side, actually innovating and experimenting, but then wherever you feel ready to make it a product, to do so.
Thank you. Well, Iain, let's come to you. I mean, you head the consulting business of the third largest corporate real estate business in the world, and you're dealing with many people and your clients' people and the buildings. What's going on? What's the biggest challenge and opportunity? I think you might even work with Nexthink. Mm-hmm. What are you hearing and thinking about all of this topic?
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that don't know JLL, we run everything in the real estate world, from large investment deals in the city right down to facilities management for buildings just like this. And when you've got such a breadth of workforce and supporting many, many millions of clients as they walk through the doors of their offices every day, we're trying to work out what's happening to that experience moment by moment. So there's two parts of where we're really focused right now. Firstly, understanding the future of work. I'm not going to go into hybrid working in detail, but how changing patterns come together. And what that means is when we come together now, it's more intense. We come together less frequently. We expect a stronger experience in our buildings, and we expect everything to work, be it the technology, be it the air conditioning, be it the catering and the facilities. So the challenge that, of course, presents for us is everyone wants everything on the same day. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it's an intensification of how we deliver our services, and that presents challenges to sustainability and other things. On the other side, we've got a workforce of something like 60,000 facilities managers, our blue-collar workers, on the ground. And for them, technology often seems quite a long way away. We've made the biggest investment in our industry into AI, and we are trying to liberalize that on-the-ground workforce and drive accessibility to tools, accessibility to thinking, different ways of working, to a workforce that traditionally has been quite detached from technology, quite detached from the experience that many of us as knowledge workers will experience every day.
I mean, the mobile phone was the first bit of kit, wasn't it, that unified the workforces. I sat on a Workforce Institute board a few years ago, and we had a board meeting at IKEA, and they had pioneered, because they'd understood their workers wanted their mobile phones, so they actually created some of the early apps so that they could make use of it. I mean, what do both of you think about adapting, really taking the cue from the human and then working with technology, or does the technology come in and you go, how can we make the humans use it?
It's it's interesting in some ways that AI is making us think about our humanity in some ways. So, and it definitely applies to the workforce right now. I mean, every company is thinking of AI. We are thinking of how to kind of get, we've already introduced a bunch of different ways in which AI can be utilized by IT, who are providing the services to employees. The main thing right now is, you need to kind of realize that this is not sort of evolutionary technology. This is truly revolutionary, an overused kind of a cliched term, paradigm shift. This is paradigm shift. If there's one place where you can apply that accurately, this is fundamentally changing the model of work. So the change in work, in some ways, for knowledge work, is going to be, it's going to be on the same scale as work transformed on the factory floor. I don't think we, as humanity, did a good job in managing that change. But this is a place where certain types of work is going to be eliminated. Certain types of repetitive work is going to be replaced. That's a good thing. But this is an opportunity for us from a human standpoint to say, this is knowledge work that's being eliminated, but you can retrain people in other aspects to be augmented by AI. And so that's something we need to look at.
So first of all, clearly Nexthink saw a market opportunity, that the anxiety levels of employees were only going to go up, and so that's why you focused as much as anything else on the employee experience, but also that you are, this retraining thing, Thomas, has come up again and again, and could you tell us a bit about DHL with your multiple levels of jobs in different countries? And I know that your strategy is that something like 73 or 74% of your workforce is always been or being trained in something, right? Well, tell us a little bit about that in relation to the AI.
Sure. So deploying technology can be very specific or very broad scale. I'll give you some tangible examples. So Pakistan, our truck drivers there, they get supervised by AI, camera-based AI right now, to identify signs of fatigue or signs of misconduct, and then there is an immediate prompt, verbally and given to the driver to correct the action. This obviously doesn't need a lot of training. It's a very obvious, intuitive, let's say, work instruction you receive. And the benefit that comes from it is a significantly improved safety level and a significantly reduced accident level. So that's an area, and it's always back to the point of looking into the specific job. I don't need to educate a truck driver today in making Gen AI prompts, but I need to find a way how to deploy technology to make the world, to make his area of work safer and better. When I then look into an area like customer service, and I just came back 2 weeks ago from the United Arab Emirates, our customer service agents there brought out a huge challenge where every clerk, every agent needs to familiarize himself or herself with AI to actually be capable to also shape the future of customer service beyond just telephony. And this is, again, a very hands-on workspace adaptation. Nevertheless, the vastest area of training that we actually deploy and implement, it's cultural training. It's making people feel belong. It's giving people the surety and also the evidence that that's what they do contributes to the success of the network. And I think you can train people in everything from a content point of view if they bring along the right mindset, if they bring along the motivation and the willingness to be open to change. And this is something which is indeed very human, because a willingness to adopt is nothing that you can teach, it's something that you bring from within. And I think this is as important, at least, if not way more important, than just focusing on what to teach.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to come on now to the people and where they work and how they work. I just wondered, could we take a snapshot? Who here is using AI in their work knowingly? I don't mean a back-end thing that has made something speedier. Who knowingly is using it, and who thinks there's a whole scary lacunae of things that they need to know and don't know and haven't been trained in? Who feels like there's more to learn and do? Some people are even putting their hands up really worried. So could we just own it again? I feel like a warm-up artist. Who is worried that they're not going to be able to keep up? Right, there you have it. Our workforce at South by Southwest needs some support. Let's talk about the worker. There's quite a lot of what I would call young people in this audience, only because quite a lot of my kids walk into the kitchen and go, hello, old people. We talk a lot about the generational differences. You all, I presume, have multi-generational workforces and probably families. Where are we on the myth and the reality about Gen Z as well as Gen AI? What I mean by that is new research from a workathon member called Integral in New York. They run the Integral Index every year, and their data shows that the biggest worriers about AI adoption is Gen Z, even though they adopt faster. So let's just go round quickly. I mean, are the workers asymmetrical in generations in how they handle this technology, Iain?
I think the challenge, and I can understand that risk to Gen Z, is the mundane work that many of us of an older generation learnt as our foundational skills in whatever we did is gone. And as people join the workforce, they're expected to use AI, to use tools without that preconceived or that knowledge being there. And so for me, the worry is, yes, you become reliant on the AI, but yet you can't apply the judgment that you and I would be able to do to look at that and interrogate it and analyze it and say, this is right and this is wrong.
So they might be quick using it and being able to be very whiz-bang, but then the political judgment of experience, that's interesting, isn't it? That's
absolutely.
Okay.
You're presented fact, but do you know it's fact, and how do you interrogate it?
Vedant, what about your crew and your clients? Because I notice you put a lot of constant iteration into teaching how to get the best out of your tech. Is that across the generations, or you notice spikes in anxiety and usage of different age groups?
We see that across the board. I mean, there was a lot of talk some time ago about digital natives, what their expectations are, having been exposed to kind of consumer technology and coming into the enterprise and suddenly finding that technology is not quite as intuitive as one would expect. A lot of the enterprises have taken that into consideration, put a lot of effort, but I would argue they're nowhere close to doing that. Yes, we've got Slack, we've got Teams and all of that, but it's not the same as what you're used to on your phone, on various other things out there. The reality in an enterprise, and this really surprised me, there was a Okta or someone had done this research, the average large enterprise has about 221 applications is what they said. And there was another one which blew my mind as well. Gartner said there are 10 to 12 applications, it seems like a lot more, that a typical person uses. Doesn't matter whether you're Gen Z or whatever the other generations would be, X, Y, everything
Alphas
else,
coming in.
alphas coming in. I mean, with that many applications, you're not going to remember how to kind of use the applications, especially when we were talking about in HR. There are certain admins who are there all the time, but most of us kind of come into an HR application when we need to do our performance reviews or whatever, if that's still being done, and complain about it, right? So that's just an example across the board for all generations. So we basically are increasingly seeing that, I mean, some of the technologies that we provide to help people, AI-driven, adopt technologies. I mean, what's the task that you're going to follow? And we need more of those things across generations.
But in a way, Thomas, you have at least a simplicity that, I mean, there are different business lines to DHL, but fundamentally the consumer understands that DHL delivers things to doors, right? Even though you've got a big back-end sort of B2B logistics business. So your problem is not that people don't know how to adopt your technology because they press buttons and order it and it works for them. But yet there is anxiety of adoption internally, isn't there?
Well, first, we not only deliver stuff, we build car doors, we mix vaccines, so there's so much in the supply chain that you can do which goes way beyond what is in front of the curtain for us as consumers. But I want to build on the myth piece of the next generation. I mean, if I look back, when I was 17, I wanted to become a writer. When I was 19, I wanted to become a psychotherapist. I ended up to start my career in market research, became a product manager, and now I'm a board member for HR.
And you read economics.
And I studied economics in between. So was this what I had on my kind of bucket list when I was at this age? No. And I'm pretty sure that whatever generations will enter the workplace, they will have perhaps similar or different stories like each one of us has or like I have. So I'm not so worried about that there is this huge generational kind of clash. And if I look around the world, it's also interesting, if you go to Southeast Asia, if you go to Latin America, the level of ambition of teenagers who get into the workplace is terrific. They all know, if I work hard, my life will be better than the life of my mom and dad. And that's a huge driver of motivation. So I think this is something which we shouldn't ignore just to say we need to offer some nice apps and a chilling room so that they have a good time. We need to give people who enter the workplace ambition. We need to give them challenges they need to chew on. We need to give them appreciation. So all these are very human factors, again, that have been around 20, 100, or 1,000 years ago. And I think with that, plus having a satisfying digital infrastructure, this can create a very rewarding environment for every generation.
Engagement, right?
Ultimately, it's engagement, you're right.
Which crosses all our areas. You know, it comes from HR, comes from technology, comes from physical space. It's that's where the digital, the physical, the cultural collide.
So the anxiety I would have, and Workathon identifies the trends and looks globally at the trend, is that clearly the world of work is becoming much bigger than the Anglo-US model that has dominated for nearly 100 years. And yet the new industries and the technology industries are still, in a way, marketing themselves as a one-size-fits-all, when all of you that deal with large populations of people, either customers or employees or both, understand there is no one-size-fits-all. So is there an inherent difficulty that at the moment the enterprise market sells at scale? That's what success looks like. You know, that's how Microsoft did it. That's how Apple did it. That's how Google did it. And yet, is that going to work for what the CEO of MasterCard says quite openly is very, very iterative, customer by customer? So, Vedant, as the Chief Technology Officer, do you not wake up in the night having nightmares?
I do, for various reasons.
I mean, good, productive nightmares where you think, oh, I need to fix it. So this customization is really what I'm describing, that Thomas's point that you have to take the psychological, philosophical, cultural perspective of your workforce into consideration, and that therefore you can't just bolt in the tech anymore, can you?
No, I mean, if you go back some time, right? I mean, this has been one of the things that people, does anyone remember one-to-one marketing? That was one of the things that people were talking about a lot. I mean, scale obviously is important, scale helps, but scale, it's not always a one-size-fits-all, and especially in the world of AI, that's going to be the ability for us to kind of create experiences specific to an employee, specific to a consumer, specific to an individual, has become a lot more easier. There's going to be an expectation that don't give me something that is average and expect me to kind of use it. I'm so much better than this. Tailor it to and that's always been the case since the internet stuff in the last 25 years. I would argue that AI is allowing us to do that more effectively. And yes, there's all this thing about prompting and you need to know how to use it and all that, but that's going to get easier over a period of time. I mean, if you make it so difficult for me to use it, it's not going to be used. So
I love this optimistic nightmares.
Yes.
It's really what he's having.
That's my optimism.
Happy nightmares. Now, I'm very conscious of time because we're running, ruthlessly to time. That is not going to change, by the way. Who can tell us how many hours in the week there are without blinking? Can anyone tell us? You see, I love this question. Yes, it's 168, and nobody ever knows that. Time is finite. I'd like you to spend a minute each, just under a minute each, just giving your end thought, because we're out of time. What should this audience be thinking about that you're thinking about? What's on your mind? If you could tell them, read this, watch that, don't do this, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? And Iain, you're first, because you're nearest to me. Sorry about that.
No, I'm going to carry on from the last thread as well. It is possible to deliver a homogeneous product and make it customized. And when I think about premises and buildings, we go into our offices, they're very samey, you have the same zone every day. The technology is there, the data is there, the intelligence is there. We haven't unlocked it yet, we're just at the cusp of that. So, the idea that we can customize, we can stretch, we can contract, we can create experiences that people want for that intensification, those intense moments when they do come together with a very customized experience for that group, that would be my ask. Think about how we customize within a generic world.
I think the missing word is also managers, isn't it? Because apparently, according to this index, 40% of productivity is attributed directly to your line manager. That's on you all. Vedant, I'll come to you last. Thomas, what's your wave a magic wand, or what's your piece of advice? What should people go forth with from this session and think about more?
Try to squeeze 3 things in 1 minute. So first, don't be anxious, because the ones who are anxious, they don't see the opportunities that sit in front of us. And the moment you start into a race in an anxious way, you will probably not win it. Second one is, that's back to burning the candle on both ends. You need to be exploratory at the same time as you need to scale up solutions. This is nothing where you say, I can sequence it, or it's either or. You need to do it at the same time. And I think the last one, and that's back to the title of the session, it's about the humanity. It's the basic things of giving people leadership, showing appreciation, connecting the dots, which is something genuinely human, to create teams that work together and can learn from each other. This is something which will give organizations way more power than just applying technology from wherever it comes.
Thank you. Vedant, I've given you less than a minute. But I think you're succinct.
Yeah, no one told me that. No one has accused me of that before. So the thing that, so we talk about experience all the time. That's the business that we are in from a digital experience standpoint. And like Iain mentioned before, all 3 of us bring it from different perspectives. So we had commissioned a survey of about 1,200 people. It was interesting. One of the things that really stood out for me was 65% said that within 3 to 5 years, there's IT and HR are somehow going to come together as far as the experience is concerned. And I was like, wow, that is, I mean, there are a lot of people thinking that that'll happen. And when you think of it, it's not that radical because, I mean, in onboarding, IT and HR really come together, I mean, to make the new employee productive. At the termination point, they come together. I mean, IT is very quick with kind of turning off your access. HR does the exit interview. In that big productive middle, somehow we seem to go our own ways. And I did believe, yes, there is a way, and maybe and Moderna, apparently, this is an article in the Wall Street Journal, has combined that into a chief people and digital technology officer. I mean, it may not happen at large companies like that, but definitely there is going to be someone who's going to own experience because that crosses people, technology, and facilities in some ways.
So my takeaway, as the Americans would say, is that the humans matter more than ever, the machines are with us more than ever, and that we need bridging strategies, tactics, and roles. And on that note, I would say I think we need to talk more. You all need to come on our Nowhere Office podcast to dig deeper. Thank you so much, Iain Franklin, Vedant Sampath, and Dr. Thomas Ogilvie.